Alrighty. I think first, just a quick recap of training camp. Going through Saturday in the mock game. I thought the mock game was really beneficial for us in that we got a lot of new faces, a lot of new players, and just our routine of how we do pregame warm-ups, how it works from a substitution standpoint, some of the situations we put them in Saturday, I thought were all beneficial for us. So that part went really well. And I think kind of lends itself to kind of a common theme from training camp, which I think went well. Obviously, a couple unfortunate injuries after that first scrimmage with Isaiah Nair and Junior Angulau. But with that, I think our guys really responded, and different guys have stepped up to replace those voids, which, hey, the reality of it is injuries occur in football. You never know when they happen, and that's that whole next man up mentality that has got to be in place across the board. I think for us, everyone wants to know about depth chart and this and that. The reality of it is this is an important week for us from a competition standpoint because a lot of guys are going to play. It's early in the season. It's going to be warm, and we've got to make sure that our two deep is very solid. So whether a guy's a 1 or a 2, the reality of it is they're all going to play, and that could happen on special teams, on offense and or defense. So point being, I think the competition is got to be there. Who's going to be the first guy in? But the reality of it is, multiple guys are going to play in this ball game, and they're going to be needed. We're playing a team coached by Terry Bowden, who's been doing it at a high level for a long time, been around great programs, got a really veteran coaching staff, new coordinators, which is obviously challenging when you're trying to prepare your team. And I think our ability to adjust Saturday night is going to be critical from a coach's standpoint and then a player's standpoint. Because you try to prepare for as much as you can, but you want to make sure that you put your players in position to play fast, play physical, play tough, and do those things. So big challenge on for our defensive side of the ball with a lot of playmakers coming back for these guys. Quarterback is an electric guy who can do it on the ground, through the air, 2 good runners, receivers that can create explosive plays. And then defensively, the challenge is a lot of new faces. There's a couple veteran guys back, but a lot of new faces. So work cut out for us, I think, schematically. But more importantly, I think this week has got to be about us and us playing our game and playing our game at a really high level and seeing who's quite frankly, who's ready for the moment. And that's what we got to find out with a lot of new faces. So I'll leave it at that.
If you have a question, raise your hand and we'll get a mic to you. Start with Roger in the back middle.
Coach, is there a feel that it's game week? There were games on Saturday. Players have to be feeling a little bit as well?
I think so. When you have a mock game on a Saturday and you're trying to give the players a little bit of time off to get their legs back for the game week, I probably watched more football this weekend than I normally would have, even kind of replays of games and obviously a lot of excitement in the air. I felt it today in meetings and at practice. The volume, as I say, kind of gets turned up when the season rolls around, and the intensity gets turned up, and the attention to detail and all those things. And I think in coach speak, you'd like to say every day's the same, but the reality of it is they know it, the players know it, the coaches know it, you can feel it. So good start to the week for us, and it's exciting, man. I say it to you guys all the time, but I love college football. I love everything it represents. For me, it starts in training camp, that we're getting to be back on the grass with the guys. Then school starts, and you start to feel a buzz around campus. And then I'm in my office working at night, and now the band is practicing right here in DKR. Like, all those things start, you can kind of smell football. And then, obviously, it started last weekend, and now we get our opportunity Saturday night in DKR at 7 o'clock. I'm pumped for our fans. Obviously, anytime you can set a record for season ticket sales like we're able to do this year, I think there's an excitement in our locker room, but I think there's a lot of excitement outside of our locker room. So, just looking forward to the moment. We only get 12 of these shots in the regular season, so we want to make the most of them.
On your left, Coach Chip.
Steve, when can you tell that the game has slowed down for your quarterback, and how is Quinn doing with that?
I think that, partially is just body language and demeanor of the quarterback. But I think a lot of it is specific styles of plays, right? Some plays come more naturally to certain guys, some take a minute. And then I'm trying to navigate through, the things that have really slowed down for him, and those are the things we'll try to emphasize Saturday, and maybe some things that he's not quite as comfortable with, and then that's maybe we push that back a week. But he appears very comfortable. Quinn is not a wear his emotions on his sleeve kind of guy. He's a very mellow-mannered, even-keeled guy, which I like at the quarterback position. But yet I can feel his confidence. You can almost see it in the decisiveness of their throws on certain throws. And so, and then obviously rapport with the frontline guys. So all in all, I think he's in a good spot. The hard part for us in training camp, for any position player, most notably the quarterback, you start getting into practice 14, 15, that's a lot of install that they're trying to absorb, and they don't know what's getting called. When you get into game planning, man, it's really tight, and they know it's very specific on the play calls that are coming and why we're calling them. And so naturally you see a little bit of a shift in game week and game prep because the just understanding of what's getting called and what's up for the week.
The middle, Dennis.
Coach, it seems like on defense, most of the players we visited with, they talk about cohesion. They talk about being comfortable. Do you see that? Does it, I guess, increase your expectations for that side of the ball?
Well, I do feel it. I've talked it kind of big picture about our team, but I definitely feel it on defense. I feel like we're playing as one. We're not playing as 11 individuals, but we're actually playing as one. I think there's been really good communication. I think that the front guys have kind of started that. We've got great leadership there, obviously, with Morrow and Coburn and Sweat, guys who have been there. And then the emergence, obviously now of Byron Murphy and Vernon Broughton. And so I think it starts there, but it's kind of matriculated its way into the back end. And, Anthony Cook's played a lot of football. Granted, he's playing a different position. He's played a lot of football. Deshaun Jameson's played a lot of football. There's been some new, fresh faces back there, obviously with Ryan Watts and Keaton Crawford, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, I definitely feel them playing as a unit. And I think that's why we're flying to the ball better. We're creating more turnovers, things that were important to me, and I think they've taken that to heart, and they're doing it collectively. It's not about one guy. They're all doing it together. So that part is exciting for me.
Stay in the middle, Amar.
Coach over here. Coach, you talked a lot this offseason about your culture and establishing your culture. I'm just kind of wondering, what does a Steve Sarkisian kind of culture, look like? And with that fully ingrained, what do you think the fans can expect to see from you guys with that culture established?
I think culturally, I like a tight-knit group that can be vulnerable, can be honest, can hold each other accountable, but yet it's full of love. Everything, we say it a lot in coaching, it's not personal, but to me it is personal because I want what's best for our players and I want them to want it for each other. And I think that we have done a lot of work in that area. I'm proud of the guys for being vulnerable and really opening up and getting to know their teammates and knowing what things have caused them angst in their lives and what things maybe excite them that push them to go further. And so I think our culture is at an all-time high since I've been here. Ultimately, culture gets tested when adversity strikes, right? And can we keep that bond through the storms, right? Through the rough waters. And I think that we're in a place to do that. And that nobody wants storms to come, but football's a lot like life. It comes, you never know when it's going to show up. And then how we persevere and how we get on the other side of it is really important. And it's a lot easier to get on the other side of it when we're really well connected and we're doing it for one another, and we can pick the guy up next to me and make sure he gets there too. So that's what it should look like. You should see, 100 guys take the field Saturday night together, and you see 11 guys playing together as one, down in and down out. And I'm not saying we're going to be perfect, but that's what it should look like when we come out of that ball game.
Coach over here in the far left, center.
Hey, Steve, what do you remember about your first career start at quarterback, and how have you used those lessons that you learned as a player to kind of help you coach these young quarterbacks who have no experience?
I do remember mine. It was an early kickoff at Air Force. They were sacking me a lot, so that was I remember that. I think ultimately, I was fortunate. I was coached by some great coaches. I had Coach LaBelle Edwards, Norm Chow, Robbie Bosco. And those guys had a really good plan that made me feel comfortable. And what I did was trust those guys. They had done it for a long time. Whether it was Ty Detmer, Steve Young, Jim McMahon, a lot of great guys had played for those guys previously. So I just kind of instilled my trust in them that they were going to do everything for me in my best interest to play well. And that's the same thing I'll say to Quinn. Just allow us to coach you and trust the fact that we're putting you in a really good position, whether it's myself, Coach Milwee, Coach Flood, that the entire offensive staff, and then trust the people around him. He's got a veteran group of guys, whether it's Bijan, Roshan, Keelan, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Winnington. He's got some really good players around him that have been through some fires, and trust those guys that they're going to do their job and focus on your job and trust the people that are kind of connected to you on that night.
Back middle, Ed.
Coach, for the last few years, Longhorn fans and you last year had the luxury of Cameron Dicker doing it all, kicking.
Yeah.
What about this year's place kicking, field goals, punting, confidence, and who can we see on Saturday?
Yeah, I feel very confident I'll start punting first. I don't know where the direction went, but Isaac Pearson has really performed well this training camp. He had another good kind of mock game / scrimmage Saturday. He's handling the calls well. He's hitting the ball where we want it hit, and obviously we've got a good coverage unit. I think from a kicking standpoint, first of all, from a kickoff perspective, Will Stone has done a really good job. He's hitting the ball deep. He's hitting it with good hang time. We've got, again, the coverage unit strong. I feel good there. From a field goal standpoint, that's the hardest one to gauge when a guy hasn't kicked a field goal live, right? When there's 101,000 people here in DKR and what that looks like. So Bert Auburn's done a really nice job. That doesn't say that Will Stone won't get his opportunities too. We're going to take this thing throughout the week and try to put him in some stressful situations. And that's not knocking it. They haven't been good. They have been good. It's just hard on coaches sometimes to get a gauge of what is it going to look like when the real bullets are flying. And I reminded the two guys the other day just that, Cameron Dicker's first 2 kicks last year, he missed them. Then he went on to not miss, right? So, hey, just because one kick doesn't go the way you want it to go, it's on to the next one and make the necessary corrections so that you can perform to the highest level.
Front middle, Bob.
You obviously know what you have in Bijan Robinson, but what's his next step? What do you want to see out of him this year?
I think a couple things in Bijan is really becoming that complete player. We see it. There's no doubt about it, and he has that in him. We have to give him the opportunity to be that complete player, right? We can't have just a stationary target all the time, so we've got to make sure that we're utilizing the strengths that he has. And I also think for Bijan, one thing that he's worked hard on is really becoming a little bit more vocal. He's held in such a high regard in our locker room that sometimes it's okay to step out of that and coach a guy, help a guy, motivate a guy. And we're seeing that. I think Coach Choice was a perfect fit for him to bring some of that out in him. Coach Choice is not shy by any means. And I think that has allowed Bijan to find his comfort zone of, expanding that and getting a little bit uncomfortable at first of not just living in a very comfortable world. He's a good football player. He's talented. But how much is he affecting the next guy? And can you do it in a positive light? And we're seeing that in him. And so, again, everybody's at a different phase of their development, and he's at a very high level. But that doesn't mean he can't continue to improve.
Coach on your left, Danny.
Steve, going back to the kicking game, last year you let Cameron kind of pick who he wanted as his holder. Is that the case this year? Are you guys going to go back to the quarterback?
Well, I think there is a level of comfort needed for the kicker. It's kind of like the pitcher that wants the specific catcher, right? I mean, they just feel that sense of comfort. And I think both guys feel very good about Isaac holding. We definitely will have some other things in place where some different people can slide in there and do it. Hudson Card naturally can do it at a high level. But that's still a work in progress as we get through this week. But if we had to kick a field goal today, Isaac would hold for either guy, and he feels very comfortable doing it.
On your far right, Joe.
You mentioned a lot about, I think your quote is, the front windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror, but how do you keep the guys from looking too far ahead this week?
The thing for us is this, these guys work really hard for a long time. I mean, you think about, we came back in January for winter conditioning, which was tough. It was hard. It was then you get spring ball, and then you get summer conditioning and summer workouts and player ran practices and skill development. Then you get training camp. Then in training camp, you just keep kind of going against one another, and everyone kind of gets tired of it. I think our guys are excited to play a game. I don't think they're worried about what's down the road. Honestly, I think our team is just excited to play football against another team, another helmet, another scheme, and enjoy doing it, you know, and see how far they've come in their own game personally, but see how far we've come as a team. I haven't felt that from our guys at all about what's down the road. I've felt a team that's excited to play football, you know, and like I said, we only get 12 chances a year in the regular season to play the game for an enormous amount of practice and hours of reps and weight room and running and to do this. And Saturday we get one of those chances. So we don't want that to go by. I mean, we're going to make sure that we're dialed in, ready to rock and roll, and playing hard, playing tough, playing fast, playing physical football.
Steve, you made over your roster to a large degree. How would you quantify how it's changed in terms of talent, speed, and depth?
You know, I think I feel like we're bigger, especially up front on the offensive side of the ball, and that was a huge point of emphasis of ours. That you know, we got bigger just naturally up front. I think that, you know, and it's hard because I think a lot of our current players have evolved some too, not just the new players coming into our program, but we feel fast. You know, I feel speed on our team across the board. You know, whether it was some of the shifting and things that we did in the secondary to some of the influx of the linebackers we brought into the program, whether it was high school or transfer. I feel like at tight end we feel a little more athletic, a little faster. So inevitably, I think as a team, we feel like we're just playing faster, even on special teams. And then I'd say probably the third thing that, from an evolution standpoint, we feel tough to me. You know, and again, you never know. Everyone, like the old adage, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, and we'll get punched in the mouth Saturday night. But we feel tough. I feel like we're a hardened group that is going to play a brand of football that I'm accustomed to. And so those things, that evolution of it all, I hate to say it's all because of these new players, you know, because a lot of the guys that are going to be the frontline starters for Saturday played for us a year ago. But I think those guys coming in helped motivate some of those guys to say, I want to keep my job. You're not taking my job, and that's okay. That's what competition should do. It should bring out the best in all of us, and I think that we were able to get that.
Over here in the back left, Jeff.
Sark, when you've talked about what needs to change defensively from last year to this year, you've talked about playing tighter coverage on the back end. Is that kind of when you look at, you know, what's better? Does pass rush create better coverage, or does coverage create better pass rush? Is leaning on coverage something you've always believed in, or was there something that you researched or looked at this offseason that led you down that road?
I mean, I think to your point, you know, it's probably both. I mean, I could probably play man coverage with Aaron Donald playing 3 technique for me, right? I mean, that ball's coming out. I mean, I'd have a better chance to do that. So naturally, you have to assess your roster, and then you have to do what's in the best interest of your team to be as successful as we can be. And if I had, you know, like I said, Aaron Donald, maybe we could play a little softer eyes on the quarterback, but he's not here right now. And so we've got to find a way then to tighten it up and allow the pass rush to get home. And so I think every year you've got to try to do what's best for your team and for your players to have success. And I think that we're more than capable to play a little tighter in the back end. I think we recruited to it. That's not to say that we can't rush the passer. I think we've dramatically improved there. When you have both, man, now you really got something going. That's when you're special. And hopefully we can evolve into that as the year goes on. But you have to have a starting point, and that starting point is one. You have to take away some of the freebie throws and make the quarterback, you know, at least hitch in his drop to maybe allow some people to get home up front.
Stay on the side, Jeff.
Coach, we'll learn a lot about your team on Saturday when it's real against a real opponent. But going into week one, what is something that you know this team can do?
I think this team has a unique ability to create explosive plays, on both sides of the ball and on special teams. I've seen enough from us in the kicking game of blocking punts, creating big returns. We've got more than enough people to do that. I think that we've got enough playmakers on offense to create those explosive type plays, and whether it's the runners, the receivers, I think the quarterback naturally has the ability to do it. And then what I've seen from our defense this camp is their ability to create the explosive play, the turnovers, the big hits, the knocking the ball out. And so that to me, when we show up Saturday, that we'll have that ability to do that in some way, shape, or form, utilizing all three phases to try to make it happen. The thing I don't know is, right, this level of consistency, right? Can we continue to do it, down in and down out as fatigue sets in, as a backup goes in at a certain spot, and that they have the confidence to do it, and it's not just one good play here, two poor plays there. We want a level of consistency in our play that sometimes is hard to replicate in practice, right, until the game comes. And then the second part that is an unknown is our ability to adjust, right? I mean, at the end of the day, Coach Bowden and his staff, they're great coaches too. And they're gonna present different things to us Saturday night that we're gonna have to adjust to. And then we have to convey that to the players, and the players have to take that to the field and execute it. And so those are things that sometimes are hard to tell in camp. But from an explosiveness standpoint, a playmaking standpoint, I feel very good about our team.
Back middle, Will.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for having us. So the fall camp has a speed, but game week definitely has a speed.
Sure.
How do you get the guys to kind of almost gear down and walk through and be ready for the game this weekend? What's your tactic there?
I wait till Friday to slow down. Until then, I want our guys to practice, man. We take a lot of pride in the way we practice. We talked about it again this morning. We critique effort first. We want to make sure that we know how, when we get between the white lines, we only know one way to play. And we've come a long way in that capacity. And so the last thing I'd want to do is pull the reins back on them right now. I want these guys to practice hard, practice fast. On Friday, we'll walk through. But then on Saturday night at 7 o'clock, I want our guys flying. And I don't want them to have to try to turn it on Saturday night. So they know how to do it right now. And so I want to keep them in that space. We'll worry about that down the road. But for right now, I want them to play the way they're accustomed to playing.
Steve, was there anything during the offseason or specifically in training camp where you pointed to and said, okay, that right there, and that gives you belief that this team is mentally stronger?
I don't know. We've had a lot of things come up. I don't know if there's just one instance or one play or one thing where the team kind of got galvanized or anything like that. We just put in the work. Over time, we've really tried to do a good job of celebrating small victories and not letting things go by without letting them know that's what it looks like, or that's how you come together, or that's what player-led leadership looks like. We've really tried to celebrate the small wins because I think big wins are the accumulation of small wins. And there's an old adage. It's like, if you can't do the little things right, you'll never do the big things right. And so we've really tried to celebrate the little things and the progress that players are making individually or us collectively. And the byproduct of that is, I think, ultimately a better performance by us as a team. So, like I said, I don't think there's ever just one thing like this aha moment. I think it's been an accumulation of things that have added up and continue to mount. I think that we've done a much better job, myself, from laying a better foundation from a team standpoint than I did a year ago. And I'm not afraid to say that. I didn't think I did a great job of that a year ago, assess everything in our program. I think we've done a better job of connecting our team that way. We feel closer. And in the end, the idea is that when adversity strikes, that bond is what's going to pull us through. And that, maybe that's what we were missing a year ago.
Time for three last quick ones. Start with Terry on the right.
Coach, in the off season, you probably did a lot of things. Is there one or two experiences that you had that were just mind-blowing, so much so you might have called your parents and said, "You're not going to believe what I just did"?
No, I'm pretty simple, Terry. As a team, we just, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if that was a personal question or a team question, but I'm running with the team one, okay? I mean, it's not about me. But we did a couple things as a team that I felt were really effective. We did a lot of work in our community from a community service standpoint to have a real sense of gratitude. I think that in today's world, it's about me and what can I get now. And sometimes we need to give back and we need to be grateful for what we have. I thought that was really effective. I thought we did some more team activities outside of football and got to know one another outside of the locker room and being on the grass together. And I think that we grew closer as position groups. I thought our position groups did more things together outside of the facility. And really got to know one another. And to me, like I said, I don't know if those are necessarily mind-blowing, but I think the accumulation of those things have had an impact on our team.
Two last ones, Nick and then Seven.
Yeah, see, this probably goes hand in hand with you feeling this team's a little bit tougher than it was last year, but obviously one of the issues last year was just, closing games, holding on to leads, finishing strong in the second half. Obviously you won't know until you're in that situation this year, but what gives you confidence that these guys are going to be better equipped to do that, and you as a coaching staff will be better equipped to finish games this year?
Well, I think in the end, it's one, I think as a staff, we know each other even better than we did a year ago. And that's not to make an excuse, but that's just the reality, right? It's another 12 months of working together and getting to know personalities and things, and going back and reviewing specific calls or adjustments that got made. I think, too, as a team, when you really watch it, that you can point out specific plays along the way that ultimately affected the outcome of the game. And everyone wants to look at the fourth quarter of those games, but there were plays earlier that affected us to put us in the position in the fourth quarter in a negative way. And so I think our guys understand that and recognize that. But third, I think our players are playing with a lot more confidence. And again, we haven't faced the adversity yet. But I thought some of the errors that we made in those games came from a lack of confidence. It came from uncertainty. It came from not playing with a belief in the call and in myself and in the guy next to me. And so that's what we've had to drill down on and work on to ensure those things. But through it all, we're going to get faced with a bunch of tight moments. I mean, this isn't like, you just ho-hum your way through 4 quarters of football. We're going to get put in difficult situations. The ball is not always going to bounce our way. There's a reason footballs are shaped the way they are. It's not a soccer ball or a basketball. It bounces back to you. It kicks right. It kicks left. You want to try to create your own opportunities through your effort. But even through all that, the call's not going to go our way. The ball's not going to bounce our way. Physical errors occur. We don't catch it. Things happen. How we respond is the key to the drill. And I feel more comfortable with our team understanding that aspect of it, as opposed to hoping the ball bounces our way, and when it doesn't, we get the poor me's. And there's no sympathy for that. None of you write an article that says, poor Longhorns, the ball didn't bounce their way, right? And so the reality of it is how we respond to the adversity, the tough times, the unfortunate luck, if you want to. That's going to ultimately make up what this team is about. And like I said, I feel good about it, but we'll find out. We'll find out when adversity strikes.
Last one over here on the left, Seven.
Steve, you guys went through the ringer last season. As a coaching staff, how do you walk that fine line between teaching them to learn from the mistakes of the past and looking ahead, since the slate is pretty much wiped clean for this season?
I think that's what the off season's for. We did a lot of work this training camp on, understanding situations in game and playing through scenarios and in full team meetings and trying to raise the football IQ and you go through cut-ups and then you try to teach from them but I don't sit around and dwell and browbeat these guys about being 5-7. This is a different football team. We got a lot of new faces in that room. More than half the guys in that room weren't even here a year ago. And the ones that are still here, they feel crappy already. So what does that make me feel good, making them feel bad? I don't believe in that. I believe in this is our team. This is what our mission is, and this is what our goals are, and this is how we're going to get there. And we keep the focus on the windshield. You know, I think I keep looking back at 5-7. I'm going to run right into a tree at some point. You know, so we try to keep our focus ahead of us. I try not to just belabor the point of what happened a year ago. They hear it enough. You guys write about it every day, so they hear about it enough. So I'd rather focus on what's ahead of us and what's positive.